For more than 2 decades, Kelly Ripa has been one of the most recognizable faces in daytime television. She has sat behind the live desk through multiple co-hosts, countless celebrity interviews, major personal milestones, and more changes than most television personalities ever experience in one career. So when she suddenly disappeared from Live with Kelly and Mark in the summer of 2026, viewers immediately noticed. The headlines made the situation sound dramatic. Some suggested Kelly had finally walked away from the program she had helped define for 25 years. Others wondered whether there was a disagreement behind the scenes, or whether she had quietly decided that the daily grind of live television was no longer worth it. But there is an important distinction between what the headlines suggested and what the available evidence actually shows. Kelly Ripa has not confirmed that she permanently left Live. In fact, the latest reporting indicates that her absence was connected to recovery from a gum graft procedure, followed by the show's normal summer production schedule. She returned to hosting desk for a pre-recorded episode in August, while the show's next live season premiere is expected to take place on September 8th, 2026. That doesn't mean there is no story here. There is, and it is a story about a woman who has spent an extraordinary portion of her adult life waking up, going to work, sitting in front of millions of viewers, and doing something that looks effortless on television but requires enormous consistency behind the scenes. The real question isn't simply, why did Kelly leave Live? The more interesting question is, why did her temporary absence make so many people believe she might finally be ready to leave? To understand that, we have to go back to the beginning. Before Kelly Ripa became synonymous with Live, she was a young performer from New Jersey trying to make a name for herself in television. Born Kelly Maria Ripa in 1970, she grew up in New Jersey and developed an interest in performing at an early age. Dance and gymnastics helped introduce her to the world of performance, while early television appearances gave her something even more valuable: experience in front of a camera. She appeared on programs including Dancing on Air and Dance Party USA, experiences that helped her learn how to perform for an audience without necessarily having protection of a major acting role. Those early opportunities mattered because television can be intimidating. The cameras are close. The lights are bright. The audience is watching. And unlike ordinary life, every movement, pause, expression, and reaction can become part of the final broadcast. Kelly learned how to handle that environment. Eventually, she moved into acting. In 1990, at just 19 years old, she joined ABC's long-running daytime soap opera All My Children, playing Haley Vaughn. That role became the foundation of her early television career and introduced her to millions of daytime viewers. The soap opera world also changed her personal life. While working on All My Children, Kelly met actor Mark Consuelos, who joined the series in the mid-1990s. Their characters became romantically connected on screen, but the relationship eventually crossed into real life. Kelly and Mark married in 1996. That marriage would become important to Kelly's future in ways neither could have predicted. At the time, however, Kelly was still primarily known as an actress. She had no way of knowing that another television opportunity would eventually transform her career completely. That opportunity arrived when Liv needed a new co-host. For years, Regis Philbin had been the central personality of the program. After Kathy Lee Gifford's departure, producers needed someone who could sit beside Regis, keep up with his energy, react naturally, and make viewers feel as if they were part of an ordinary conversation. Kelly appeared as a guest co-host in 2000, and something clicked. She wasn't simply reading lines. She was reacting. She was joking. She was improvising. She was willing to look silly. Most importantly, she seemed comfortable being herself. That turned out to be exactly what the show needed. In 2001, Kelly officially became Regis Philbin's permanent co-host. Suddenly, her career was no longer centered on playing a fictional character. She was now appearing as herself, live, in front of a national audience. That distinction is enormous. An actor can finish a scene. A daytime host has to keep going. If a guest says something unexpected, the host has to respond. If a joke doesn't work, the host has to move on. If something goes wrong technically, the host has to keep the conversation alive. And if the audience doesn't react the way you expected, there is no opportunity to stop and start over. Kelly became extremely good at that. For years, viewers watched her develop a recognizable style. She was energetic, quick-witted, personal, and willing to talk about ordinary family experiences. She wasn't simply hosting a television show. She was becoming part of people's morning routines. That is one reason her eventual absence felt so strange. For viewers who had watched Kelly for years, seeing someone else in her chair was not like seeing a substitute teacher at school. It was more like noticing that a familiar part of your daily routine had suddenly disappeared. Then came another enormous change. In 2011, Regis Philbin announced his departure from the program. Kelly had spent a decade working beside him, and now she had continued without him. The show eventually entered another era. Michael Strahan joined Kelly in 2012, bringing his own personality and experience from professional football and television. The pairing worked, but in 2016, Strahan announced that he would leave Liv for a full-time role at Good Morning America. That transition became one of the most controversial moments in the show's modern history. Reports at the time indicated that Kelly was upset about the way the news had been communicated to her. Her reaction demonstrated something that would become increasingly important throughout her career: the difference between enjoying a job and feeling respected within that job. Kelly eventually returned, but the episode became part of the history surrounding her relationship with Liv. Then came Ryan Seacrest. Seacrest joined Kelly in 2017 and remained her co-host for 6 years. Once again, Kelly adapted. Different personality, different background, different rhythm. Same desk, same audience, same responsibility. By this point, Kelly had demon straw. Ted something remarkable. She could survive almost any change in the person sitting beside her. The constant was Kelly. Then, in 2023, Ryan announced his departure. And this time, the person replacing him was someone almost impossible to imagine as an ordinary coworker. Mark Consuelos, Kelly's husband, the man she had met decades earlier, the father of her children, the person who had already shared most of her adult life. Suddenly, Liv wasn't just a workplace for Kelly. It was also a place where her private life could overlap with her professional life. That created a completely different dynamic. Kelly and Mark could joke about marriage. They could tease each other. They could tell stories about their family. They could disagree without viewers wondering whether the disagreement was part of a television performance. They already knew one another too well to pretend they were strangers. And for the audience, that familiarity became part of the appeal. But it also highlighted just how long Kelly had been doing this. Think about the timeline. She joined Liv in 2001. 25 years later, she is still associated with the program. During those years, her children were born and grew up. Her marriage evolved. Her children became adults. Her career expanded. She became a producer. She developed additional projects. She created a podcast. She worked alongside multiple co-hosts. And through all of it, she kept showing up. That is why her 2026 absence generated so much attention. On July 27th, Mark explained on Liv that Kelly was recovering from gum graft surgery. He made clear that she was doing well, but had been instructed not to speak during the early part of her recovery, because speaking is essentially the foundation of a daytime talk show host job. Kelly couldn't simply sit at the desk and take it easy. She needed time away. The explanation was later supported by reporting on Kelly's own podcast, Let's Talk Off Camera. Kelly had apparently known for years that she needed a procedure. According to reporting on her comments, her dentist had recommended it approximately 5 years earlier, but she delayed it. By the time she finally had it done, her doctor had made clear that waiting was no longer a good option. That detail is actually more revealing than the surgery itself. Kelly had joked years earlier that she didn't think she would still be on television 5 years later. But she was. She had remained at Liv. And eventually, the medical issue she had postponed caught up with her. This is where the headline becomes misleading. Kelly didn't disappear because she suddenly decided that Liv was over. She disappeared because she physically needed time away from a job that requires constant talking. Mark explained that her recovery came with several restrictions, including avoiding talking and sticking to appropriate foods while she healed. He also described the procedure as particularly uncomfortable for Kelly, despite her reputation for having a high tolerance for pain. That meant the woman who normally spends her mornings talking to guests, joking with Mark, interviewing celebrities, and interacting with viewers had to do something that was probably incredibly difficult for her. She had to be quiet. For Kelly Ripa, that may have been one of the strangest breaks from television imaginable. Imagine spending 25 years building your career around conversation, then suddenly being told that conversation is exactly what you cannot do. It wasn't a dramatic backstage confrontation. It wasn't a mysterious resignation. It wasn't a secret feud. It was a recovery period. And yet, because Kelly's absence happened after so many years of uncertainty and change surrounding Liv, speculation naturally grew. Who would replace her? Would Mark continue without her? Was this the beginning of the end? Was Kelly finally ready for a different chapter? The show brought in guest co-hosts while she recovered. Kevin Jonas appeared alongside Mark. Mila Kunis also stepped in. Pamela Adlon and Scott Foley were among the other guests who helped fill the chair. Later, Sarah Choka and other guest hosts appeared as the absence continued. For viewers, this created an unusual sight. Mark was still there. The show was still there. The desk was still there. But Kelly wasn't. And when a television personality has been present for a quarter of a century, even a short absence can look enormous. That is especially true in the age of social media. A normal vacation can become a rumor. A medical break can become a headline. A pre-recorded episode can be mistaken for a live return. And an unanswered question can quickly become a theory. The timing made things even more confusing because Liv was approaching its regular summer break. During this period, the program can air pre-recorded material rather than live broadcasts. That meant viewers could see Kelly on television even while she wasn't actually returning to the live schedule in the way some fans expected. On August 10th, Kelly appeared at the live desk again, but the episode was pre-recorded. Reports indicated that the show was entering its annual summer schedule, with the next live season expected to begin on September 8th. That distinction matters, because if you only look at a headline saying Kelly returned, you might assume she immediately went back to her normal schedule. And if you only look at a headline saying she left, you might assume she quit. Neither description captures the complete situation. The reality is much simpler. She took time off to recover. She later returned to a pre-recorded episode